Hello and welcome back to the All Out Brits Podcast, the podcast where we send the house on all things NFL from across the seas here in sunny old England. And we are back with another one to talk about the divisional matchups heading into the second week of the playoffs, the big four to decide who will make it to the championship games. We've got tough clashes in the AFC and we've got surprising clashes in the NFC. But as always, there's plenty to talk about. There's plenty that can happen. And there's a wonderful man to discuss it all with me, Mr. Elliot Greenwood. How are you doing, my friend? How are you feeling that we're missing the Cowboys in these clashes?
I always miss the Cowboys. The Cowboys never make it this far, so I'm kind of used to it by now. It'd be a luxury if we got here. But yeah, I'm doing good. I'm a little bit disappointed, actually.
How's that, mate?
I've just realised, pal, you always do the intros.
Right.
I'm not disappointed in the Cowboys. I've been disappointed in them enough. But do you not think it's time to share the love and give someone else a chance, give someone else a turn, see how they can handle it, how they can step up, share the love?
Not really, mate, because I think I tick the diversity box. So, if you don't let me do it, it's just a bit racist.
Is straight white male not a diversity anymore?
It's just the status quo, isn't it?
I suppose it is, actually. I think
it's not in the NFL, though. So you are a minority in the NFL. You know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Stick me at cornerback.
I'm being bad. You know what, my friend? Okay, if you want to do an intro, I'll let you do an intro then, and you'll realise, like when Kate Abdo and Jamie Carragher went at it on CBS, that it's not as easy as it looks, pal.
You do make it look very easy. You do a very good job.
Want to do it?
I reckon I'll do it next week when the Niners have lost, where we know where to be found. And you'll be missing. I think it'll just be me speaking to the camera, actually. So, shocking video quality, I assume, for that one. But other than that, it'll be a great pod. There'll be less cheer from you for once. It'll be a really nice change.
It'll be like one of your homemade videos, won't it?
So let's move on to this week in the NFL. Mocking it, bro. Mocking it. Let's start. Come on, kick us off. Come on.
Right, let's start then. Whilst we got the good video quality going, let's let it rolling. So let's start in the AFC because there's some big ones there, and probably the smaller one out of the two is arguably the Texans facing the Ravens. Now it's a matchup which you did say was probably going to come about, and you had it down that the Texans were going to go one further. Now, the Texans, it's a fairy tale already. It really is a fairy tale already. We did not expect them to be at this point. They have been absolutely immense. Arguably, they could have had a much better record because there's games where obviously CJ Stroud, sort of missed because of concussion, but they're games that they could have won, could have made it really more sort of interesting. But then maybe it would have impacted their seeding and where they get to this point. So maybe it's worked out for the best. But I just can't see the Texans getting past that Ravens team. I know they've been amazing. I've been full of praise for the Texans, but I just don't think it's the worst thing in the world if they lose this game. Whereas on the flip side of it, it could mean a whole lot to the Ravens. How important is it for the Ravens to get to this AFC Championship game after a few years where just haven't really been as amazing as they can be?
I think, yeah, like you say, it's a bigger game for the Ravens than it is for the Texans. The Texans got nothing. They've got nothing to lose. They've got absolutely nothing to lose. They play with the heart on the sleeve, and they're such an exciting team to go and watch. And I think because they've outdone all the expectations that we expected from them. We didn't even expect them to make the playoff, let alone have a playoff victory. So to get to this point, sensational. And if it ends here, it's still an unbelievable season for them.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, this game is everything for the Ravens. For them to have the season that they've had, to then go one and done, shocking. It can't happen. Lamar needs this game to cement his MVP. Otherwise, it's going in a different direction, in my opinion. Lamar needs to step up this game. Now, he's proven that he can. He's proven that he's an MVP caliber quarterback, and he's won very big games. And this is a very, very different Baltimore team than the ones that we've seen kind of previously. But this game is massive. If they lose this game, there's going to have to be changes in Baltimore. There's going to have to be some switches in the coaching positions because the players have shown that they are good and they are fantastic and good enough to get it done. Winning one game isn't enough, though. Even if they win this game, they have to go to the Super Bowl. They have to get there. This team is far too good and far too they have a massive opportunity to get to the Super Bowl, and it's now or never for the Ravens, in my opinion. Lamar's got all the pieces, and he's got that defense. He has to take his team to the Super Bowl. He has to do it. If not now, my question is when.
Yeah, and the difficulty for the Ravens is obviously they've got a few tools on offense which may not be there for a lot longer. Obviously, OBJ comes back this season, hasn't been as prolific as we know OBJ to be, but he still had a part to play in that offense. Whether he stays longer than this season, probably not. Obviously, another year on Mark Andrews as well, so sort of the big asset for the Ravens too, and it's obviously another year for Justin Tucker as well. So this team is getting on, and like you said, they've got the pieces there. But if they don't make it through, it could be a very difficult sort of off-season for. Obviously, we saw last season it was really difficult trying to negotiate with Lamar and not knowing where he could go, and he gets paid probably not what he wanted to get paid, but at the same time, he came back, and he really has been immense, as you said, this year. But they have to go to this Super Bowl. Harbaugh needs to take him to this Super Bowl, and I really do think that it could be theirs. Even if the Niners make it there, I do think it could be theirs just because they're just clicking at the right time. I think they really are clicking at the right time. Don't get me wrong. I believe in the Niners, back them all the way. But we saw what they did to, the Niners in that game. Let's not be, naive here. I think they just might have the number on the Niners because that game in their psyche. But the Niners are known to come back from games that damage their sort of beliefs and core systems. So I want to see Niners and Ravens in that Super Bowl to make it, an old school, all out clash, to be honest with you. And I think it's going to be criminal if either of those aren't there, because that Super Bowl window for both of those teams in particular is really closing.
It is, mate. And again, you mentioned the Niners. It's not written home for them that they have to get there.
No.
But like you said, that Super Bowl window it's open, but the door is slowly closing. They soon have to pay Brock Purdy. They've got to pay Ayuk at the end of the season. There's other players on that team they need to get paid.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that matchup this week.
The Niners, go ahead.
So we got the Green Bay Packers coming off one of the most impressive playoff wins in recent memory, dismantling the Dallas Cowboys at home. They then go to the 1 seed now, all the way to Levi Stadium to play the San Francisco 49ers in a game where kind of both quarterbacks have had questions about them this season. Jordan Love has been absolutely sensational. Brock Purdy's been absolutely sensational. And yet question marks still loom over their heads. Which quarterback for you, Taron, takes the W? And how do you see that game kind of going?
I got to back my boy Brock. I think I saw a stat that all of the quarterbacks left now have all been first-round picks, I believe. And then you've got Mr. Brock Purdy in there, who's he's not meant to be here. He is, Texans similarly. Brock Purdy's not meant to be in this position. There's no way he should be here with this Niners team. And this Niners team with all they have, yes, they should be here, but Brock Purdy would not expect to be the quarterback that's taken there. He is immense. I can't stress it enough. I know there's been a lot of talk about, MVP this season, but I like that he stayed grounded, and he's shown that he isn't, the greatest quarterback whatsoever, because he is a rookie. He is young. He's still learning the game. At the end of the day, he just about had a full season coming into halfway through this season. So it just shows that he is raw. But I just think he understands his team and that offense a lot better than Jordan Love understands his team and his offense. And I think that that's going to be the big thing. Obviously, defenses are going to be, sort of having their days. But I think Brock's had that stinking game this season. He knows not to throw it and not to force it, which I don't think Dak had learned up until that point this season. And that's where he forced it in that game. And you'll admit that he forced it into position in that game where he didn't need to, because he hadn't had that experience this season where you've been absolutely demolished by your decisions, whereas Brock has. And I don't think Jordan Love's been punished in the same way. And I think that's going to be heavy on the mind of Brock Purdy, but it's going to ultimately mean that the Niners come through on this one.
I kind of disagree with you, bro. I think it's going to be a game where the better quarterback is going to prevail, in my opinion. And that doesn't mean the better quarterback over the season, because obviously Brock Purdy's been the better QB over this season. But for me, Jordan Love has shown that on the road he can step up. He's beaten good teams. He's beaten good defenses. And that Niners defense has given up a lot of points recently. It's given up a lot of points to bad teams. And coming off a bye, we expect them to kind of be fit. We expect them to be healthy, rested. but momentum is a massive thing in the league. And coming off that win, back-to-back massive wins now for the Packers, once against the Bears and now against the Cowboys, two massive rivals, massive kind of historical teams, to go to another historic team in the Niners in San Francisco. For me, Jordan Love steps up and he takes his team, the Green Bay Packers, the 7th seed in the NFC. He takes them to the championship game. And I know you're not going to like it, but and maybe I'm being spiteful. Maybe
I think just a little bit. But to be honest, the thing is Shanahan's had a bit longer to prepare for this game. Obviously, halfway through the second quarter, he already said that he's preparing. So he knows he was ready for this. He's had extra time. He knew what was going on, baby. And so I think he's got it. And LaFleur, let's not forget, he's a product of Mr. Shanahan and his system. So if anyone knows the playbook, it's my boy Shanahan. And I think as long as we're ahead going into that second half of the game, we're going to be all right. If we have to pull a comeback, we're screwed, mate. I might as well take my hat off because, I think, like you said, it's about momentum. You got to get it in that first quarter. You got to make sure you're on it. And I think the Niners will be, but there's going to be fierce competition from the Green Bay Packers, like you said, because of the game that they've just come off.
Absolutely, mate. And obviously, after playing that game in against Green Bay, they have the kind of if they win that game, which you hope that they do, and a lot of people believe that they will. There's another massive kind of contest in the NFC that's going to decide who they play, and that is obviously against two kind of refuge QBs who have come out of nowhere. It's the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that game, a game that I don't think any of us saw kind of coming into the season, let alone even coming into the wildcard weekend. I don't think many of us saw that game. How do you expect that? How do you expect that game to go? One of either Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield is going to a championship game. Unbelievable. How exciting is that game, Taz?
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like you said, it's a story that you want in the NFL. You don't want to be seeing the same faces every single year. I always think back and I wonder, obviously, we probably weren't really into NFL at the time where the Patriots were spanking people left, right, and center for 10, God knows how many years. But how boring must it have been to be seeing, obviously, great players and great faces, but the same franchises every single year in the same game every single year. And we've seen it recent times with, the Kansas City Chiefs. We knew what was going to happen. And now it's competitive and it's nice. You get these stories, you get these wonderful games, and you get all these unexpected outcomes as well. And I think that's what we want in the NFL, especially as neutrals, as fans, we obviously want our own teams in there. But as neutrals, you want it to be exciting. You want to be gripped by a game. You don't want to be sort of just half watching it. You want it to be a game all the way through. And I think this is going to be that game all the way through. I can see it going to overtime because I think it's going to be two offenses absolutely cooking, two defenses that can get to the quarterback, that can get a job done. And I don't know how to call it, to be honest with you. I really don't. I just think that both teams are just going to have an absolute day with the ball in their hands.
Mate, for me, it's got to be Jared Goff. I look at that Lions team. I look at that team, and I can't. Another playoff game in Detroit. How exciting for the city! They've not had one for years, and like there's two of them show up at one. It's going to be an absolutely kind of amazing atmosphere, amazing experience. You felt the atmosphere, you felt the electricity in the stadium when they played the Rams, and for me, that 12th man is going to carry them over the line. And I think Goff gets the job done. He's got to Baker Mayfield's story. It's been magnificent. It's been magic. But he's going to have his time. He will come back next season. They're going to invest in the right areas in Tampa Bay, and he will come back. That's my opinion on him. He's had a year of learning. He understands that playbook a little bit more. He's going to come back. It's Jared Goff's time now. Jared Goff is time. It's time to step up and stand and deliver. And if he can win this game, and if the 49ers lose, I can see the Detroit Lions going all the way to the Super Bowl. I can't see the Lions beating San Fran, but I can see them beating Green Bay. Yeah. So if that happens and that situation happens, Jared Goff could be going to his second Super Bowl, and could he win it for the first time? We will see. Yeah,
and I think, as you said there, I'd feel much more confident if we make it through to the championship game and we play Tampa because we've played them this season already. We've sort of got their number as well. But also, it's a team that you've prepared for. Whereas when it comes to the Lions, it's a new offense you're preparing for. And obviously, we've seen they've been completely dynamic this season, and you don't know how to cope with that. And I wouldn't want to be facing that Lions. I wouldn't want to face this Packers team, if I'm honest with you. I said it 2 weeks, I don't want to play this Packers team, but we're in that position now. But as you mentioned, it could be a crazy, crazy story for the Lions or for Tampa or for the Packers. And it's what we're here for. It really is. And another crazy story back in the AFC is the one that we do see quite often now. But it's one that could possibly go the other way, having been one-sided for so long. And that is the Buffalo Bills facing the Chiefs, but this time in familiar territory for Josh Allen back in Buffalo. And he's facing a Chiefs team that doesn't have, the cheetah running around, running circles, causing damage. It doesn't have consistent receiver. It doesn't even have Kelsey firing on all cylinders. It doesn't have Patrick Mahomes firing all cylinders. Could this be the time where we don't see Kansas City make it to the AFC Championship game?
You mentioned that this is the time where a story that we've seen before, and once upon a time in a land far, far away across the pond, there was 14 seconds left on a clock, and Patrick Mahomes came in and he waved his wand and he delivered his magic. This time, though, the young magician, the other magician on the other side of the ball, Mr. Josh Allen, he's going to stand up, he's going to wave his wand, and he's going to do something absolutely special. I think for me, everything comes into play from recent memory. Everything kind of is on his mind, Josh Allen. Everything's got to be there. The past, the present, and looking ahead at the future towards that Super Bowl. We mentioned that the Ravens need to stand up, and it's a game for the Ravens. This is a game that means so much more for Josh Allen than it does Patrick Mahomes. This is a legacy game. This is what NFL careers are built on. It's games like this, in the cold, in the snow, in January, and you want your big play to step up. And that's what Josh Allen's going to do this week. I can see the Bills beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And going to the AFC Championship game to face CJ Stroud. That's my prediction. I'm standing by it. But yeah, I think it's much more of a game for Josh Allen than it is for Patrick Mahomes, and it's for that reason why I think he will get the job done. Mahomes has been playing around with some receivers this year. He's not really found one in particular that he fancies the most. Obviously, Rashee Rice had a fantastic game last week, 130 yards for him. But saying that, I don't think that receiver core is good enough. In those conditions, you got to bear in mind, it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be friendly throwing conditions. And who has the better rushing attack? James Cook, for me, over Isaiah Pacheco. And the ground game is going to help Allen out a lot. And for me, Buffalo get the W. How do you see that game going, sir?
Yeah, well, I think me and Haley Steinfeld are in the same boat because I think we're both excited to see Josh Allen wave his wand about in Buffalo. I think, everyone's excited. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people tuning in for that. But I think Mahomes in the cold, we've seen this week, he had to play in the cold, and that offense had to play in the cold, and they had to deal with the cold. And it was almost an audition game when you think about it. And the offense didn't click. They put points on the board, but they didn't click as you'd expect the Kansas Chiefs to do. Whereas if you look at Buffalo playing in the cold again, on fire, absolute fire. And you could argue there, wasn't much points in between, the Kansas score and sort of the Bills score, but it was the way the offense performed. It looked like for the Bills, the players just knew what they were doing. It looked dynamic. It looked absolutely fluid. Whereas the Chiefs, it was stop, start, and that's not what we expect from Patrick Mahomes. And like you mentioned there, I think 100% agree with you. It's got to be Allen's time, surely. If not now, then when? He needs to get to this championship game. This is his chance. This is his time. And it's going to be a game and a half in that AFC Championship game if it is the Ravens and if it is the Bills. Probably not the Texans, but I think that is going to be the game, the Ravens and the Bills. And wow, it is going to be the test of two mobile quarterbacks in that game. And I feel for Mahomes, I really do. But I just don't think he's had it all there this season, unfortunately. But we say all this, would it really surprise us if Mahomes absolutely clutches this up and goes on to win another Super Bowl?
No. One thing I would say is you say that you feel for Mahomes. Mm-hmm. I don't. He's on bloody $60 million a year. I can't feel for a man that's on that amount of money. I'll be honest with you, kidder. I feel for Brock Purdy being on 900 grand. I say 900 grand. I'm on 20 grand a year, lad. there's no comparison. Yeah. But yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes, he's had an up and down year. But we'll see how he does. For me, the man on the other side of the ball gets the job done. Josh Allen takes the dub.
Do you feel for Dak Prescott? Because how much is he on?
Wait, bro, just stop.
How much is he on?
He's actually, do you know what? His contract's all right. It's I think he's on about 39 a year.
Oh,
39.
right, okay.
He's interestingly though, his contract is up for renewal soon. He's
Is
got
it?
1 year. He's got 1 year left on it, so he's got next season to play on it. But if it sorts cap space out, if we kind of resort it this year in March, if not, it really does just kind of bugger us for cap space. So there's going to be changes in Dallas. Trey Lance, your boy's going to come in. That's what I'm seeing. Someone's getting to it. I don't know. We'll see.
He's a spy, mate. He's a spy. I'm telling you that much. He's just coming to ruin the Cowboys franchise.
You and them spies. All you talk about is these spies. That's all you say.
Hey, I'm checking my shoulders every 5 minutes, bro. They can come out of nowhere, bro.
Conspiracy theories, bro. Yeah, this is the thing. 10K views we've done this month, bro, on the shorts. So you got to keep your eye out. They're coming from everywhere.
You got to. And you know what? Let's tell the people watching this, keep an eye out, because the game's coming thick and fast. We've got plenty to talk about. And as always, we're putting stuff on YouTube. We're putting stuff on Spotify. And we've got a lot going on TikTok. So if you're ever bored, if you're ever missing our beautiful faces and voices, come check us out on TikTok, All Out Brits Podcast, everywhere you can possibly think of. We are there. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do. And feel free to comment a bit of abuse. We love a bit of that, don't we, mate?
Mate, I love the conversation. Any conversation is a good conversation. Even if you just call in Taryn ugly, I'm sure we will back you up on that one. Is
we
that
only want
right?
truthful comments, though, because that's bullshit, pal.
Shut up, like, bro, you might. No, I'm not. I'm gonna hold my tongue. We got time. These Niners are losing this week, boy. These Niners are losing, and then I will speak. Then I'll speak truth, and then people can slate you like they slated me, because God did the slate with the comments, the abuse. It was horrible. So I was crying myself to sleep. I can't hack this social media life. I can't do it.
Right. Well, I'll see you next week when the Cowboys aren't in the NFC Championship game, but
and I'll see you next week when the Niners aren't in the NFC Championship game, and what a week it's going to be. And always on the All Out Brits podcast, what do, sir? We keep bringing them back for more.
That's the one. That's the one.
I might not be allowed to do an intro, but I can do an exit. That's what I'll do.
You get out of it, pal. I've had enough of you at this point. But as Elliot said there, please make sure to keep coming back. And we'll see you next time on the All Out Brits podcast. Bang, bang, Niners gang, baby. And we'll see you next week.
How about them Cowboys?